This video was brought to you by Squarespace. Blip Gonzo. Hello, my tasty and helpful friends. I am Arlo, and today I am reviewing Yoshi and the Mysterious Book for the Nintendo Switch 2. I have played the game, and I am here today to answer the question: is Yoshi and the Mysterious Book a stupid, baby, easy, dumb, baby garbage game for babies? Or is it literally Yoshi's Island 2? Let's find out. Whoosh! Nintendo has put out some experimental games. They've gone in new directions with their well-established series, but rarely do they take a swing this wild. Yoshi and the Mysterious Book plays like a Yoshi game. It feels like a Yoshi game. It's got a lot of the same ideas and characters. Bowser Jr. is the villain, but it's a completely different experience, unlike anything else Nintendo has put out, apart from maybe Pokemon Snap. Most other Yoshi games are straightforward platformers, and if this game is similar to any Yoshi game, it is similar to Yoshi's Story, which also had these kind of free roam levels, but the similarities stop there. Here, there's no goal to reach, strictly speaking. There is platforming, but it's never the point. The point is to research creatures. Every level has you investigating a different creature, interacting with it in every way you can possibly think of. Basic stuff like eating them to see what they taste like, then spitting them out to see what happens, see where they go. But then each creature has its own unique abilities. These interact with the world in different ways. They interact with other creatures in different ways. And every time you do something new, Mr. E, your weird book friend, jots down a note. It can feel a little overwhelming when he just never stops talking and the notes are filling up the screen faster than you can read them. But there's a real satisfaction to making all these discoveries. It's always fun to come upon a new creature and just start messing around. The designers did an amazing job coming up with ideas. Nearly 100% of the time, if I thought something might end up being a note, it was. Experimentation is just about always rewarded. And the pages of notes, they feel like they go on and on. There's a great amount to find for any given creature. And even better, these unique abilities open up all different kinds of gameplay. Each creature is its own mechanic. The levels are built around them. Sometimes things play out like a series of puzzles to solve. Sometimes it's more about taking this mechanic and maneuvering around and collecting stuff, a little more on the platforming side. And sometimes you get these very fast, wild, movement-based abilities that really shake things up. The creatures provide just a huge amount of gameplay variety, especially in combination with Yoshi's already quite solid moveset. All the usual moves are present. You're eating stuff, you're throwing eggs, and now you have the ability to just put stuff on your back and throw it. So there really are a ton of different ideas you get to play with throughout the course of the game. Since this isn't a traditional platformer, there's no fail state, no lives, you can't die. One could argue that this means there's no challenge, but really it just means that the challenge is in the solving. It's a puzzle platformer. You don't lose to a puzzle, you just take a while to solve it. And while most of the discoveries you make will probably come fairly easy, I found myself stumped a good number of times. It really can be tricky hunting down all these little notes. There were a few times when it didn't quite feel like my fault that I was stuck. I think the game can share at least a little bit of the blame in some cases. Once or twice things even got a little frustrating. But sometimes it really is just genuinely tricky. You can pay for hints, which is nice if you're feeling kind of fed up, But you can also skip those hints for maximum challenge, or if you're just really having fun taking your time with things. Which is really the way to play, taking your time. This isn't the kind of gameplay that's gonna appeal to everyone. Absolutely not. But if you meet the game where it is, it can be immensely rewarding. In fact, I'm not usually motivated to hunt down all the collectibles in platformer games because I just don't think it's that fun scouring levels for every little hidden thing, especially when the difficulty does ramp up and I have to do sections over and over again. Here, since there's no fail state, there's no wasted time other than just, wandering around and experimenting. I actually find myself wanting to collect everything here because because apart from the little handful of smiley flowers in each stage, what you're collecting is actually discoveries. And every discovery is fun to discover. You know, it's not just like finally reaching a coin, it's figuring out some little interaction. And that's what makes the game so weirdly compelling. It uses just a completely different part of my brain. Plenty of games will offer you, a mix of gameplay challenge and then exploration, discovery, that kind of stuff. But this is a rare Nintendo game that puts absolutely everything into that second category. And it makes for an incredibly unique experience. It's nothing but discovery. It's nothing but exploration. There's a real novelty to that, especially because the design is just so good. These ideas were explored so thoroughly. There may be some ideas that are so much fun. I do wish the levels lasted longer. There's maybe a little more room to play around in. Most of the worlds have these more grand finales, kinda, sorta akin to boss battles, and some are over far, far too quickly. But the depth of discoveries is always satisfying. Again, if you can think of it, it's probably a thing. This is genuinely one of the most clever games Nintendo has ever made. It's all the points got put into that stat. Before we continue yoshing out on mysterious books, a quick reminder that this video was brought to you by Squarespace. Building a website could not possibly be easier when you do it through Squarespace. Doesn't matter if you've never done it before. There's no coding or anything like that required. The intuitive builder lets you basically do whatever you want, formatting, embedding, arranging stuff, however. You can even start with a basic template to save even more time if you want. And you can make just about anything, something personal like a blog or a content library, or something professional like a business page or even an online store. Whatever it is, you will have a slick looking website before you know it. My site, Arlo Recommends, is a basic blog, so I just write up a bunch of posts, I edit and draft them all at once, schedule them all to publish and even push to social media at later dates, and I'm good to go. Then I just wait for them juicy analytics to roll in, and if I ever need more, I know Squarespace has got my back with lots of powerful extensions. To try out Squarespace for yourself, head to squarespace.com for a free trial. Then when you're ready to launch, head to squarespace.com/Arlo to save 10% off your first website or domain. And now for today's recommendation, Chorophobia by Weevil. You like EDM? Of course you like EDM. Weevil put out this album last year and I just got around to listening and boy, he's good. Thanks again to Squarespace. Now you may continue to yosh as hard as you want. Now, it is also slightly disappointing that these levels are all separate. Each world has its own theme and collection of creatures, and there's definitely some crossover between levels. It feels really good to continually learn things about some of these creatures, even outside of their own levels. It just kind of makes you wish the levels were all stitched together somehow into one bigger experience, or maybe just each world was its own big level. But as it is, it's still very satisfying to progress. There's still a great amount of overlap and a great sense of continuity. Newly discovered creatures will sometimes get introduced into older levels and unlock new discoveries. And I love how researching creatures in a world will naturally lead to the discovery of more creatures in that world in kind of a domino chain. And the gameplay, the whole premise, it is clever enough, but I cannot properly communicate what the game's style does to lift up the experience. At a glance, the visual style isn't as, immediately punchy as Woolly World or Crafted World. Those games looked really, really nice, sure, but Mysterious Book has this look that's wholly unique. Instead of just crafts or paper or paint or storybook or just any of the styles we've seen a million times, this is styled more after a researcher's notebook. It's like Darwin's journals, but much more colorful. It's a somewhat painterly style, but it's not just paint. The gimmick isn't paint. The characters and the creatures kind of look like clay, but it's not super overt. This isn't Yoshi Clay World. It's just this kind of eclectic mix of styles in this research journal kind of package. And it's so incredibly unique. It's more subtle than its predecessors. So much more subtle that I could see someone thinking it bland at first. But I think it's so delicately beautiful. I truly believe that this is the first Yoshi game to really hit home with an art style since Yoshi's Island. There are some kinda uneven visual elements. I really feel like the resolution should be sharper. The outlines in particular, they're kinda pixelated. The character models are just kinda weird and fuzzy sometimes. It's pretty disappointing, and the stylistic mix of frame rates can sometimes clash a little bit, but overall, it really does look lovely. Best of all, though, absolute best of all, is the creatures themselves. I'm crazy about creature designs in any game, and that is one thing that made Yoshi's Island so much fun. The bizarre, funny, completely unique artistic style. All the weird little things running around, you know? And again, this game lives up to that legacy and then some. You get to research most of the best creatures from that original game, plus a host of new ones that are everything as creative and silly. And you're not just seeing them, you're not just fighting them, you're exploring every facet of their abilities and personalities. It's an absolute joy. I really mean it. I'm just in love with nearly all of these creatures, madly in love. And you know, the music is interesting. Yoshi music has been pretty hit or miss. Like really hit and really miss sometimes. Here the soundtrack is very simple, very minimalist. It's definitely got that kind of kindergarten style that's usually kind of grating, and yet somehow here, it actually works. I think the melodies are solid enough. It contributes really well to the laid-back feel, and as you discover more and more about a creature and you get into these hijinks, the music will ramp up in intensity. It'll add more instruments. And if anything, that right there kind of seals the deal. None of the music really stands out, but yeah, it really does work. Just like with so much of the game, I could see someone being disappointed with it, but if you meet it where it is, you kind of see that it's doing its own weird thing, but doing it weirdly well. It's funny because so many of us have been waiting for a game to capture that same magic of Yoshi's Island for over 30 years. Gameplay-wise, Mysterious Book absolutely does not. It's just a totally different game, a totally different kind of game. But stylistically, this is it. This is absolutely it. This is the modern Yoshi's Island of my dreams. And it's just amazing how much that carries the game for me. Plenty of games are pleasant to look upon, you know, nice music and atmosphere and all that, cozy vibes, etc. But this one feels different to me. I don't know, just this is one of those games that really hits, you know, that digs a bit deeper down into my heart and touches something there. And I think it's especially because of how, like I was saying, it's tapping into different regions of my brain that I'm not really used to with Nintendo platformers. The exploration, the sense of discovery, all that. It combines to create this sense of wonder. It's not like super deep wonder, you know, it's silly, lighthearted wonder. I'm not gonna spend a ton of time in. This isn't Breath of the Wild, you know, I'm not gonna spend hundreds of hours here. Yet for such a casual little experience, it somehow really feels like something a bit more. Something that'll stick with me longer than usual, and certainly longer than I expected. As far as content goes, it is certainly not the biggest game in the world, but it's not the smallest either. I think a lot of people will probably feel that for the price, not really worth it. I'm happy to report that it's got a fairly generous amount of post-game content after you roll the credits, so it ended up being bigger than I initially expected, at least. But yeah, I think ultimately it just comes down to how appealing all this is to you. If you meet the game where it is, it's an unforgettable, infinitely charming and endearing experience. But if it doesn't hit just right, it's probably gonna be pretty disappointing. Like, it may feel overly shallow, simplistic, you know, like it's aimed too squarely at very young kids. Which is funny, Nintendo, you know, sometimes they will make these games that feel like they're aimed at little kids, and then they'll require so much reading, and they'll have all these challenges that even an adult may struggle to puzzle out, but whatever. Me, I am very surprised by how much I enjoyed Yoshi and the Mysterious Book. I can see how a longtime Yoshi fan who's looking for a traditional platformer might be pretty darn disappointed. I really don't think it makes much sense to make games for kids when Nintendo excels at making games for everyone, and I don't know if it was wise to turn the next Yoshi game into this series-defying, no-stakes creature exploration game, especially when people are waiting for the big Switch 2 titles to hit and feeling kind of impatient. But I can't deny that this is Nintendo doing what they want, doing what they think is fun, period. This is a wild creative swing that makes very little business sense on paper. And I think this game represents their sense of raw fun and whimsy better than most other games. Again, it's where all the stat points went. This is Nintendo creativity turned up to maximum, admittedly at the expense of basically everything else. And you know what? It makes for an experience I can say I'm actually pretty thankful for. A regular old Yoshi game would have pleased a lot more people, so maybe that would have been the more objectively correct choice. But we got this weird one. You just don't get weirdness like this very often, and it's an experience that wouldn't have existed if the world made more sense. Well, that is that. Those are my thoughts. And wherever you may sit, whichever side of this weird fence, I hope at the very least you enjoyed watching this video. Thank you so much for joining me here. I hope you have a lovely day, and I will only say one more thing, and that is running pants and shirt guy for Smash.